G'day, welcome to the Snowy's Camping Show. You're here with Ben and Lauren. How are you, Lauren?
I am doing really well today.
Doing good. Mm-hmm. We are talking about whether or not you should use one of these guys we've got sitting in front of us, which is a fire pit, a portable fire pit, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping this is going to spark a little bit of debate over whether they should or shouldn't be used, and also around the ethics around fires and scars on the ground and that sort of thing.
Whether or not you actually need one.
Whether you need one, whether you need a fire, whether you need a fire at all.
Whether you need a portable fire pit.
Yeah.
Because you always need a fire pit. What are you talking about, mate?
I think we might have two different sides of the story here. So could be a debate happening live in front of you, but we're hoping to get the conversation happening on our Facebook group too. So jump over there at the Snowy's Camping Show. Ask to join the group if you're not already part of it. And conversation could be happening while we're talking. You never know. Mm-hmm. But let us know your thoughts on fire pits and kind of ethically using a fire in a campsite as well. I think we're probably going to end up inevitably touching on that as we go.
Absolutely.
So there's a fire pit sitting in front of us here, right? These kind of do a few different things, but they generally fold flat. They're kind of pieced together.
Essentially they're portable fire pits. Like when we're talking about fire pits in this episode, that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about the big sort of dish fixed ones that you might have on your veranda or in your backyard. We're specifically talking about portable fire pits that are designed for you to take with you on your adventures, car camping adventures, obviously, because you're not going to hoik a giant fire pit up the hill when you're hiking, are you? But
no.
But that sort of thing versus just having an ordinary fire.
Yes, that's right. Now I'll give you my take on this. Now I don't have fires just for the sake of having fire, and it really grinds me. I think we touched on a previous episode before. We'll get to that. Be patient. We touched on it a little bit before with people who kind of just light this massive fire and it just smolders away for the entirety of them staying there, and it's a bit unnecessary. I'm going to go so far as to say it is unnecessary. You're just creating pollution, and I won't go too far down that path. What I like about these small fire pits is that it maybe controls you to use it within the parameters of all you really need for the most part. If you're just cooking for one night, they're smaller. You have smaller bits of timber. You can also cook on them, so they kind of double up as a little fire to warm yourself by. But there's also integrated grills and that sort of thing on it as well, so you can cook on it. And they're probably good for sort of stop-start kind of travel. So if you're touring, you pull up in a campsite, you can set up your fire pit, not leave a scar on the ground except for a bit of ash, and pack it up and go again. And it's probably also encouraging or less encouragement around people thinking I can just leave my tin in the fire pit there and it'll apparently just disappear magically over time on baked bean tins and that sort of thing. But I'm okay with fires being used in designated fire pits. I'm all about kind of the scar that it leaves on the ground. Like if everyone went camping and just went, I'm just going to create a little ring of rocks and put a fire in it, we'd have little, burnt out rock rings with ash in it all over the country, and it kind of gets a bit out of hand. Whereas these guys end up just being a bit of ash spread. Now you are kind of a little bit different. You've grown up with using fire for more of a purpose, not just, and don't get me wrong, I'm not against having a campfire. It's a very social thing, and I think you can do it responsibly. But it's quite interesting what we've talked about before with you using a fire or managing a fire more so for a purpose.
I know that you and I generally are quite different in how we camp as well. Like you tend to camp more in the summer months. I camp more in the winter months. So, fire is more a predominant sort of focus of my camping trips than it is for yours. You also do more touring-based style camping where you might be stopping and starting. I don't. I generally tend to go somewhere and set up for at least the weekend or the week and not move from there. So, yes, I always grew up with camping being you get there and you set up your little mini village in the middle of nowhere with all your family and you go fishing and you do your whole week of just being in bliss. And part of that is having a rolling campfire that never goes out. And when I say never goes out, it doesn't mean that it's like this raging fire that's just consuming material just constantly. It just means that there's always an active heat source there for cooking, because all of the cooking is done on the fire. It's not generally something that you do with your gas stove. And I think that that's just something that as I've grown up and had my own family and moved through, like, of course, we'll go on trips where we do use a stove, especially in fire ban season and things like that. But majority of the time, especially having a big family, it's around a fire. So for me, I'm not a fire pit person. I think they're nifty, but
fire pit, you mean like a portable fire pit like this?
Yeah, a portable fire pit. Like I think they're nifty, and some of them are really cool with how they sort of pack up and flat pack and things like that. But I don't personally see the point in them because for me they're not functional. A lot of the time they're probably a bit too small to have a comfort fire with 6 people sitting around it and trying to cook marshmallows on it, whatever. But also from the perspective of if you're cooking your breakfast and you're cooking your lunch and you're cooking your dinner and things like that, to have to start a new fire every time you want to do those things isn't practical. And I think also depending on the way that you usually interact with your fire, the portable fire pits aren't very efficient. So if it's just wanting to boil a billy of water or you want to cook a couple of sausages or what do you call them, like kebab sticks or something like that? Sure, of course. But for me, it's not super practical. So I'm definitely a campfire person.
Okay. Yeah, I think I sit on both sides of the fence there a bit. These type of things are handy for backyards and things too. We should mention that. And we've seen a big
have a lot of
increase
uses.
because you might not want to scar your lawn or anything. So they've got a base and everything usually that you can.
And lots of people have been stuck at home as well and not being able to go on trips. And so having something like a portable fire pit, I think we've seen an increase in demand for those because you can have that campfire experience at home a lot easier.
I think so. So I think they've been a big part of at-home use as well. But I don't carry one because although it does have 2 uses for fire and for cooking, I find them to be heavy. And as we've talked about before, I'm a minimalist, lightweight sort of person. So I do have fires, but I still only have them in like a fire pit. If there's no fire pit, then generally I won't. Or if something happens to my gas stove and I need to light a fire to cook, it'll be small and contained.
Yeah.
But if you're cooking like you say, then you do need to have a space where you can kind of turn a decent log into some coals. Like you can't cook on a camp oven or with a camp oven. You can, I suppose, but not very well on a small fire pit like we've got in front of us here, which is about 30 centimetres square for those who aren't watching the video at the moment, because you're not going to get the big coals and things you need to put on top and underneath. So you are going to need a proper campfire to do that. So I can totally understand what you're saying, but I love the fact that you say there's always a heat source. It doesn't have to be an entire tree that's continually fed into the campsite for 4 days and spends probably a good 60% of the day burning when it doesn't need to. You're saying you just burn it down to coals and then kind of, I don't know, cover it or try and retain the heat in those coals?
Like have a spot where you can keep the coals more right in the centre but make sure it's sort of covered with a bit of ash so there's no active flame or whatever. So then in the morning you can just unscrape the part where you know you've put the coals to try and then maybe put a log of wood on it and it sort of kicks up again because it's retained such heat. And then you just put a couple of little logs on it, get you through breakfast, and then probably sort of mid-afternoon you might start building it up a little bit more because you've got a lot more food to cook for dinner. And unlike you who have a family that tend to retire a little bit earlier, I'm always, the kids and my partner and I were always up late into the night sitting by the fire. So it is definitely an ambience thing, and it's part of what's important for us in our camping life, I guess. It's really much centered around that fireplace. But I guess also when you are talking about portable fires and things like that and cooking, there are portable options which make cooking a bit more functional. Like there are things like they're like a potbelly stove, portable potbelly stove, like your Ozpigs and things like that. They're not only are they a portable fire that you can sit around, it radiates heat and it's sort of good for that heat source, but it's really more functionally designed for cooking, and they often will come with accessories, compatible camp ovens and grill plates, and I think on the Ozpig you can even get like a big smoker thing. So Yeah, just because if you do interact with fire on a very functional perspective, it doesn't mean you always have to have a big open fire. There are portable options for you.
They can be good too because they have big chimneys as well, so you can kind of direct smoke up and away from campsites and maybe not interfere with other people who might be around you. And also go from campsite to backyard. They look kind of cool. So if you've got a patio or something, you can have it on your backyard.
That's right. So. And I think if you possibly obviously you can't have an open fire in a caravan annex, for example, but as long as you're obviously taking the safety precautions and something like your Ozpig isn't pushed up right against the canvas, you could have an Ozpig with the right chimney configuration that would go out of a gap in an awning annex space where you couldn't. I mean, they're not sealed units, so they're definitely not something that you can have in a sealed sort of room or environment. Then they're not to replace ones that you would have inside your home, but they more than happily will do the trick
in a ventilated
enclosed space, I guess.
Away from flammable
things.
I get nervous about saying this, that someone's going to use it and go, but my caravan burnt down. But
don't use it in your caravan. You use your common sense and take caution with it, but it is a really good alternative as opposed to filling out a space with smoke. And same like you mentioned before with your veranda at home or something like an undercover enclosed space at home, outside sort of space.
Yeah, well, I guess to sort of touch on that campfire side of it, it is very social. I'm sorry, not the fire pit, but the actual campfire in the ground. It is very social. I think I've sort of almost given the vibe that I'm against it, but I do love a campfire.
I've given that vibe,
If it's group cooking and I'm going to end up staying later with people, then I love the campfire. I love cast iron cooking. But
you can come to my campfire sometimes if you want.
I'll call in. It'll be some remote place, so it's not something I can just pop by on a Friday night for a slice of damper. But
yeah, well, never know.
But there are some pretty cool options that get a little bit more techie, right? That have some integrated fans. BioLite's the brand that we're familiar with. I'm not sure there are others out there. I'm sure there's plenty of techie sort of things.
There's definitely got to be others, but BioLite's the one that we would know the most, and it's the whole brand of BioLite is pretty progressive in terms of how they forward thinking in terms of how they deal with power and their appliances and things like that. But their Firepit specifically is really awesome because it's something to do with, and I don't know how it works, even though I do like sort of specs and techs and geeky stuff. I don't know how this Firepit works, but you build your fire in it and somehow the fire generates power to this thing on the end of the fireplace, which you can then also run lights off or charge your head torch or your phone at the same time. It just generates power. And then it also somehow is smokeless as well because it controls there's like a fan in it which controls the flow of oxygen or something and increases the efficiency of the burn, and I don't know, it's insane.
That's pretty much it, and I'd like to think I could come in with a more detailed explanation here. I think we did say previously we should look that up before the episode, and we've got to this point now I'm going, we didn't look that up.
We didn't look it up.
But
sorry, BioLite.
Basically, it's cool technology though. They've got little hiking ones as well, so you can just burn twigs and things in replace of hiking stoves. You don't have to carry fuel with you, but the basic concept is that it harnesses the heat from the fuel to it somehow turns that into something that drives a fan that fans the flame so it burns more efficiently, and at the same time is generating electricity to charge an internal battery that both runs the fan and you can charge from. So don't quote me exactly on that. I'm not sure I offered any more than your explanation just then. But it is really cool technology.
It's really cool. It's really cool. And I think if you and that sort of that coolness of technology, which probably I'm saying coolness, but it sounds so lame. That coolness of technology is something that BioLite do throughout their whole brand. So I really love their stuff. I mean, it's not necessarily something that I would personally invest in, but we do sell heaps of them. And I think a large sort of portion of people who are buying those BioLite fire pits are people who want to use them at home first and foremost, but they're also transportable. They're not very compact like a lot of the other portable fire pits we have. They're a bit like IKEA in that they sort of flat fold. Well, the rest of the fire pits generally do sort of flat pack and flat fold, but the BioLite fire pit is more similar to say your Ozpigs and your other potbelly stoves, where it will only compact so much, and then you sort of have the main body of the fire pit and it goes in a bag and you can carry it around and things like that, but it's still portable.
They look cool, and there's not much smoke because of that fan that's blowing through it. It burns more efficiently. It does usually mean you burn more timber.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not going to get coals and things from it because you're going to get a more complete burn. It's just ash at the end. So it really is for cooking your kebabs or your sausages or your steaks or whatever. And also for that kind of ambient fire that you can sit around and have a chat. But some of the other fire pits do look pretty cool. This is a Daiichi one we've got in front of us here that kind of folds flat and it's got a little grill on top that
comes in different sizes.
Yeah, there's Super Peg is I'm pretty sure that's an Australian made one.
Oh yeah, that one's cool.
Pieces together.
Sort of like tessellate pieces like a jigsaw puzzle and sort of it's more round, isn't it?
Yeah, it takes a bigger, you could probably almost fit a chunk of like a log of timber in there almost. But
does that come with a grill thing as well? But does it come with a grill?
Not a grill. It's got two kind of little bars that rest on top, so you could put your fry pan or your cast iron camp oven, or a camp oven or something on top, and it's got die cut kind of things on the side, so it looks kind of cool.
When it glows
flat. So they're pretty cool. Okay, I think we set out just try and let people know if they need a fire pit or should use one.
Yeah,
but I think
just stuff to think about, right? Like, but yes, I'll acknowledge they're cool. I won't buy one. I don't think, but you know what? I probably will just down because I like to have gear. But
just to leave in your shed and not use it. Yeah, say you've got one.
Exactly. I've got a fire pit. No, they're very nifty. I don't have a functional use for them, so it's not something that I'm going to invest in having in my kit. But they definitely have their uses. And if you are somebody who does that certain kind of touring, maybe you're camping a little bit more in summer where you're allowed to have cooking fires, but you're not allowed to have comfort fires and you're on the cusp of those seasons and things like that. And making sure that you're obviously always, having fires responsibly. And if it's a non-fire ban season, don't.
Just don't.
Yeah, I'm not saying buy this fire pit and just use it all around like the time. But
it does. Yeah, this doesn't change whether or not you can have a fire in fire ban season.
Absolutely.
A fire's a fire, whether it's in a fire pit, on the ground.
Yes.
In the back of your car while you do it. I don't know, but if it's a fire in fire ban season, you can't do it. You can't do it. But so they are nifty for people like yourself, I guess. I don't have one and I'm not going to buy one though because it doesn't suit my purpose. But the only reason I would buy one maybe is to have one in the backyard.
Okay. But, people love them though. They literally walk out the door. Portable fire pits.
They're very popular.
Walk out the door.
Yeah. They're pretty cool. It's a discussion point. It's a central point. Come check out my fire pit kind of thing. And they are pretty cool. But I guess if I was camping in a spot where I didn't want to scar the ground all the time, I'd probably do that. But I don't have fires enough to warrant carrying an extra, 4 to 6 kilos of fire pit in my car. But
but like I said, they walk out the door. So obviously you folks are buying them. So if you love your fire pit, if you've got a fire pit and you absolutely love it, get in touch with us and sing the praises.
Well, jump on the Facebook group like we said before and let us know because I'm hoping this is going to spark a bit of debate because some people are going to say yes, no, waste of space, definitely need it. Reasons that we've not thought of here because it turns out neither of us have or use one. So there's going to be lots of use cases that we haven't thought of. So we'd love to hear about your opinion on the Snowy's Camping Show Facebook group. Yes.
Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another riveting episode like this one.
We hope it's riveting.
We do hope it's riveting. And also don't forget to check out our show notes. It's where we put any bits and bobs from the episode that we think are interesting or things that we've missed or thought after we finish recording that. Damn, we should have added that. We'll pop it in there.
Yeah, maybe some fire safety notes, how to start a campfire. Got a few different links and that sort of thing. We'll add anything we think might be useful. We'll chuck it in there.
Yeah.
And check out snowys.com.au. The fire pits like this guy that we've got in front of us here and a few different others and a whole heap of campfire cooking equipment as well. Anything you need to whip up a feast around the campfire.
Absolutely.
I'm done.
I'm done too.
We'll see you next week.
No worries.
Thanks
see you
for
folks.
watching, guys.
Bye.
Bye.